So Tilos is a very graphical tool. So we've got the ability to have graphics held externally or held internally. So we've got graphics libraries. So you can create your own vector symbols and you can import different graphics here. And in our diagrams, we've got cells that we've designated as, in this case, being a distance cell, and this one being a graphics cell. But we can put graphics anywhere. What we want to do now is to put a graphic in this cell, which is a map of the project that we're going to work on, which is useful. So we can import that from a file on disk, or we can, if we've already got it in our list, we can drag it and drop it from our list. We can also do that from Windows Explorer. And then it creates this object in the window, and we can see that it's selected. The tabs down below are about the object, and we can stretch and shrink it using these blue editing handles, which are crucial everywhere in Tilos. So if I pick up the vertical stick, I can move it in the distance dimension. If I pick up the horizontal stick, I can change it in the height direction. If I get a blue editing handle, I can have the 4-headed arrow and I can move it to a new location, and a 2-headed arrow, I can stretch it in both ways. And I say this is editing the values down below, so I can say, well, I want it to start at 0 and go to 3,500 meters. It's got a bit of a curve in it, so it's not going to be exact, and so that's how you can readily edit an object. If I click away from it, it deselects it, and I don't select it in Tilos by clicking on the middle of an object. We click on the outside, the perimeter of an object, selects it, and you get that little grey flash is when the cursor goes across the boundary. That's when you can select it, and then you can edit it on the tabs down below. So I'm going to scroll the diagram to the right hand side, because in the top right hand corner up here I want to embed a logo. So I'm going to do that from a file on disk. So I'm going to click on the insert graphic object. I'm going to choose how I'm going to scale the object that I'm going to bring in. I'm going to have no scaling, and I'm going to connect it to the top right hand corner of the diagram. So if I change the size of the diagram, it's always going to be related to that top right hand corner. So I'm going to bring it in from a graphics file, any sort of bitmap, and I'm going to then locate that on my disk, and I've got one called our logo, so I'm going to insert that, and then again you've got the blue editing handles. Tabs are about that, so you can just move that around. One useful thing for logos, if you've got no scaling, you can keep the proportions so the width and height ratio is maintained, and you've got better control over that for everybody's requirements. So I'm also going to scroll to the bottom of the diagram here, and in the bottom right hand corner I'm going to embed some data that's not a picture. It's going to be a bit of Excel data, and I'm using the object linking and embedding capabilities of Microsoft. So I'm going to draw a box into that region. I'm going to let go, and then this dialog is opened, and I'm going to not choose a graphics file, but I'm going to embed an object that is object linked and embedded. So I'm going to click on OK. You then see this dialog, which is familiar from Word and Excel if you've been doing that, and I'm not going to create a new object. I'm going to pick one up that I've created previously. So I'm going to browse to find it, and by default there's installed one called Title Details. We click on OK, and then when I confirm the dialog, it's going to be embedded. It's going to open Excel in the background, and it's going to pick up that data and position it in that corner. Again, we can change the size of all those things, and we can edit that. We can edit that by clicking on the open button on the tab below, or we can double click on any blue handle, and that's going to launch Excel with that file open, and I can then edit Excel with any of the information I want, in this case as a title block. So and when I save that, you can see the data change, and if I close it, then obviously the files embedded in Tilos, and it will travel around with Tilos, and you can edit it wherever you want. So that's the very graphical capabilities of Tilos. We can change the scale up here with any number. We can zoom in and out, or we can fit it to the page width or the page height as appropriate. So that's the graphical capabilities of Tilos.